Beautiful afternoon to you. Welcome to TV Sapienza News Hour. My name is Oluchi Ojobamdele. Anambra State House of Assembly Committee on Education has evaluated the performance of the State Ministry of Education to ensure accountability in the use of funds and also identify areas where the legislature can provide necessary support. The chairman of the committee, Honorable Anayo Opaleke, said that the oversight function was part of the Assembly's constitutional mandate to guarantee that policies and resources are effectively utilized for the growth of the education sector. Opaleke insisted that education remains a major pillar for human capital development and that the Assembly is determined to work with the executive to strengthen the system. In her remarks, the Commissioner for Education, Professor Ngozi Chuma Ode, thanked the Assembly for its consistent interest in the education sector and noted that Anambra has become a true citadel of learning, following Governor Chukwuma Soludo's free education policy, which has made education accessible to children from all backgrounds. The federal government has declared zero tolerance for malaria and reaffirmed its commitment to partnering with critical stakeholders to combat the disease. The announcement was made during the midterm review of the Impact Project and the roadmap toward malaria elimination in Lagos State. Speaking at the event, the Minister of Health, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, commended the Lagos State government for its leadership in the fight against malaria and appreciated nationals and international partners for their collaboration. Professor Pate highlighted key achievements from the collaboration, including the onboarding of patent and proprietary medicine vendors and community pharmacies into a structured, regulated, and digitized malaria service delivery system. In his keynote address, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, reaffirmed the Lagos State commitment to transitioning from a high malaria burden to a pre-elimination stage, aiming for a malaria-free Lagos. Governor Sanwo-Olu stressed that malaria control requires more than clinical interventions, calling on households and communities to play an active role in prevention. The federal government says it did not receive any official communication regarding the deportation of Nigerians from the United States to Ghana. These follow reports that Ghana unaccepted Nigerians and other West African deported from the U.S. under a new arrangement. According to Reuters, President John Mahama disclosed on Wednesday that a first batch of 14 deportees made up of Nigerians, a Gambian, and others had already arrived in Accra. Welcome back. According to the Ghanaian government, with the authorities facilitating the return of those deportees from their respective countries. Meanwhile, the report was not specific about the number and identity of Nigerians among the deportees. Reacting to inquiries on development, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kimiebi Ebienfa, said they have yet to be informed officially. The United States had previously approached several African nations with proposals to accept deported migrants, a move that drew criticism across the continent. Nigeria has strongly opposed any such arrangements resembling those involving countries like Rwanda, Eswatini, Ghana, and South Sudan that have agreed to receive foreign nationals expelled from the United States of America. The Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, had in July revealed that President Donald Trump administration was mounting pressure on African countries to accept deportees convicted of crimes into African countries under his third country deportation policy. Tuga described the move as unacceptable and warned that such a policy would unfairly burden countries like Nigeria, which are already grappling with their own internal challenges. The Kwara State government has launched the 2025 Integrated Health Outreach Program designed to enhance access to routine immunization and primary health care services across all the 193 wards of the state. The intervention, supported by the development partners, will target 800,000 children under 5, 166,000 infants under 1 year, and 207,000 pregnant in the third and fourth quarters of the year. Speaking earlier at the launch held at the Primary Health Center in Tanke, Ilori, The Executive Secretary of the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Professor Nusirat Elelu, said the exercise would provide routine immunization, tetanus vaccines for pregnant women and adolescent girls, and as well as general health checks, including blood pressure, blood sugar, body mass index, and nutrition services. She added that referral systems had been established for cases requiring higher level medical attention, while a special nomadic outreach strategy would extend services to remote settlements. The Permanent Secretary Ministry of Health, Dr. Ayodeji Abdullahi Tauhid, said the initiative reflected the government's commitment to strengthening healthcare delivery through recruitment, facility upgrades, and policy reforms. The coalition of northern groups has cautioned President Bola Tinubu against yielding to pressure from the state governors agitating for the introduction of the state police system. The national coordinator of the coalition, Jamilu Charansi, during an exclusive interview with Ariwa Punch, warned against the introduction of the state police in the north, saying it is not the solution to the problems of banditry and terrorism that the north is currently facing. While further commenting on reports that President Bola Tinubu is under pressure to implement the state police system, the coalition argued that Nigeria is not ripe yet to run the state police system, stressing that governors could easily manipulate it to serve their personal political interests. The coalition leader further expressed fears that the introduction of the state police could worsen insecurity rather than solve it, citing international examples where similar policies failed. He insisted that the federal and state governments must instead demonstrate sincerity of purpose in tackling insecurity rather than looking for shortcuts. On health news, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors now says it will embark on a 5-day warning strike starting from 8 a.m. today, September 12, 2025, if the federal government fails to meet its demands. This was contained in a communique issued on Thursday at the end of the association's extraordinary National Executive Council meeting held virtually on September 10. The document was signed by NAD President Dr. Tope Osundara, among other executives. NAD explained that the decision followed a 6-hour virtual e-NEC meeting and came after the expiration of its earlier ultimatum to the government, a 21-day deadline issued in July 2025, which was later extended by 10 days and elapsed on September 10. The resident doctors expressed disappointment that despite the repeated extensions, the federal government still failed to address critical welfare issues, including the disbursement of their 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, settlement of salary arrears, and restoration of recognition for postgraduate membership certificates. NAD, however, said the strike will go ahead if the government fails to demonstrate good faith by resolving the pending matters before the deadline. Councillors in Otukpo local government area of Benue State have accused the council chairman Prince Maxwell Ogiri of suspending legislative activities on what they described as frivolous grounds. The councillors, led by the leader of the House, Philip Anya, made the allegation in a petition to the Benue State House of Assembly. They claimed that the chairman shut down the legislative chamber despite directives from Governor Hyacinth Alia and his deputy to maintain the status quo following the disputed removal of Anya as leader. The local government chairman had, in a letter dated September 8 this year and signed by the council secretary Simon Idenyi, directed the councillors to conduct legislative business via social media platforms. However, the councillors condemned the directive, urging the State House of Assembly to wade in by setting up an ad hoc committee to review the dissolved House Standing Committee on Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, which they said had uncovered financial misconduct. They also demanded that the Assembly summon Ogiri to explain his refusal to allow the legislative arm function. But when contacted, Ogiri confirmed knowledge of the petition, but explained that the letter suspending legislative activities had been withdrawn and replaced with fresh reasons. According to him, the chamber was shut due to renovations at the dilapidated legislative building, and the temporary hall previously used by councillors had been taken over by the Doma, Area Traditional Council and the Bureau of Local Government Chieftaincy Affairs for selection of vacant stools in Idoma land. It's a pleasure to still have you here with us on TV Sapientia News Hour. Still on the news, the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers NUPENG has alleged that the management of the Dangote refinery had breached on the resolutions reached. In a statement jointly signed by its president and general secretary William Saporeha and Afolabi Olawale, respectively, NUPENG warned that it might resume the suspended industrial action following a breach of the agreement reached between Dangote Refinery, the federal government, and all truck drivers who are members of NUPENG PTD. The union claimed that at a meeting convened by the Department of State Services and attended by the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and representatives of the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC), the management of Dangote Refinery and Petrochemicals agreed to the unionization of its employees. It further stated that notwithstanding the resolution reached and signed at the office of the DSS, with 3 on the right of unionization of the workers, truck drivers who were NUPENG PTD members for several years were ordered to remove the union stickers from their trucks yesterday. The union has suspended its strike on Tuesday following an agreement with the management of Dangote Refinery to recognize workers' right to unionize. And now move to the foreign scene, where Qatar has hit back at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a strongly worded statement early on Thursday, describing his remarks about the country hosting of a Hamas office as reckless. The heated exchange came after Israel attempted to kill Hamas political leaders in an airstrike on Qatar on Tuesday, escalating its military campaign in the Middle East and prompting a flurry of international condemnations. Recall that on Wednesday, Netanyahu warned Qatar to either expel Hamas officials or bring them to justice, accusing Qatar of providing safe haven and financing to Hamas during a sharp rebuke from Doha. Reacting in a statement, Qatar's foreign ministry condemned what it describes as Netanyahu's explicit threats of future violations of state sovereignty. He noted that Netanyahu is fully aware that the hosting of the Hamas office took place within the framework of Qatar's mediation efforts requested by the United States and Israel, insisting that Netanyahu's insinuation that Qatar secretly abhorred the Hamas delegation is a desperate attempt to justify a crime condemned by the entire world. It warned that Israel's attack on Doha threatened to derail those negotiations. Brazil's Supreme Court convicts ex-President Jair Bolsonaro on Thursday of coup plotting by a 4-to-1 vote in a landmark case that could land him in prison for years. A majority of 4 judges found the 70-year-old guilty of plotting to claw back power after his defeat in October 2022 elections by Luiz Lula da Silva. In August, a Brazilian judge placed Bolsonaro under house arrest for breaking a social media ban, escalating a dramatic standoff between the court and the politician who is accused of plotting a coup. The 70-year-old Bolsonaro is banned from social media for the duration of the proceedings, and third parties are barred from sharing his public remarks. The former president leader was also barred from receiving visitors apart from his lawyers and from using mobile phones, and warned that any new transgression would lead to his detention. Prosecutors say he and 7 co-accused tried to overturn his 2022 election defeat in a plot that only failed because the military did not get on board. Reacting to the verdict, President Donald Trump described Bolsonaro's conviction on Thursday as very surprising. Trump had sought to punish Brazil, a long-time U.S. ally, for what he sees as a politically motivated witch hunt, targeting Bolsonaro by imposing eye-watering tariffs in Latin America's biggest economy. And now to sports, where the National Basketball Association (NBA) is conducting its own probe into gambling allegations involving Malik Beasley, the free agent guard, investigated by federal officials earlier this year. League Commissioner Adam Silver confirmed. The Entertainment and Sports Programming Network reported the probe stemmed from an allegation of improper gambling on NBA games and prop bets from the 2023-2024 season, when Basley was with the Milwaukee Bucks. It also reported in June that 28-year-old was under federal investigation by the U.S. District Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York. However, it remained unclear whether Basley could face charges, with his lawyer Haney telling the Detroit News last month that he has no idea if Basley might still be charged with a crime. And lastly on the news, Manchester United has confirmed that goalkeeper Andre Onana has left Old Trafford to join Trabzonspor on loan. The Red Devils disclosed this ahead of their Premier League debut with Manchester City on Sunday and wished Onana success at his new club. Onana will spend the 2025 and 2026 season with the Turkish side, having made 102 appearances for United. The Cameroonian international joined Old Trafford from Italian Serie A giant Inter Milan in July 2023 and was part of the United squad that lifted the Emirates FA Cup after a 2-1 victory over City at Wembley Stadium. Before we wrap it up on the news, here are the major news headlines. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors now says it will embark on a 5-day warning strike starting from today, September 12, if the federal government fails to meet its demand. And the Brazil Supreme Court convicts ex-president Jair Bolsonaro on Thursday of coup plotting by a 4-1 vote in a landmark case that could land him in prison for years. And Manchester United has confirmed that goalkeeper Andre Onana has left Old Trafford to join Trabzonspor on loan. And that was the TV Sapienza News at 1. On behalf of the technical and editorial crew, I am Oluchi Ojobamidele. Thank you for being here with us on TV Sapienza.